Hey folks, tonight we drift back in time to warm salt air, creaking wood, and the flickering lanterns of a pirate ship anchored off the misty coast of Bengal. The sails are furled, the sea sloshes gently against the hull, and a sleepy figure stirs beneath a frayed hemp blanket. We're slipping into the hidden world of pirates, not the Hollywood kind with parrots and rum, but the real rogues who once ruled the Bay of Bengal. This isn't the Caribbean. No Jack Sparrow here. These were sailors of many tongues and many gods, navigating rich trade waters, dodging imperial navies, and living lives stitched together with salt, fire, and fragile loyalties. Let me know where you're listening from and what time it is over there. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. You wake to the soft moan of ropes straining overhead. Above you, the canvas rustles with the early sea breeze. The air smells like wet teak wood and last night's dried fish. Your name, maybe it's Rafik, maybe Arjun, maybe Lynn is barked by the bosun. You roll out of your hammock, feet hitting the warm planks of the deck, already slick with condensation. You're young, not quite 15. Your first season aboard the Calanga's Shadow, a hybrid vessel patched together from old Portuguese galleon ribs and the curved frame of a native Panama. She's no beauty, but she's fast mean and carries a small shrine to Kali bolted into the aft mast. The rest of the crew is already shuffling into motion. A wiry Malay cook is boiling rice gruel in a blackened pot, stirring with one hand while shooing a monkey away with the other. An older Tamil man is humming a lullaby as he sharpens a dagger on the mast post. The rhythm of the ship isn't chaotic. It's orchestrated chaos, like a wild dance everyone knows by heart. You start with deck duty wiping brine, off planks, coiling ropes, avoiding the rooster someone smuggled aboard last week. Every ship needs a morning herald, the quartermaster joked. Except now it thinks it owns the quarterdeck. While scrubbing near the prow, you glance down at the figurehead. It's an old goddess sculpture. Its paint faded, but the eyes still stern. Some say it's Lakshmi. Others say it's a local river spirit. You just call her Ma, like everyone else. Every pirate ship in these waters has something like it. A token, a protector, or maybe just something to stare at when the sea turns ugly. As breakfast is ladled out gruel with bits of salted jackfruit stories start tumbling from mouths. One crewmate boasts of spotting a whale off the Arakan coast. Another swears he saw a fireball streak over the Sundarbans last night. A comet, someone says. Omen of treasure. Another adds, eyes shining. You listen more than you talk. That's how you survive out here. The captain known only as Reza finally emerges. No fancy hat, no gold trim. He wears loose cotton trousers, a vest, and a necklace strung with oddly shaped sharp teeth. He walks like a man who trusts the sea more than he trusts the land. The crew quiets just a little when he approaches. Not because he's cruel, but because he's the kind of calm you don't argue with. He scans the horizon, spits over the side, then says, "We'll drift north today. Mughal spice ships are late." Maybe they forgot we were waiting. A few crew members chuckle, but it's nervous laughter. Mughal convoys were rich spices, coins, silk, but also heavily guarded. Taking one wasn't a raid. It was a chess match with cannons. As the ship begins to stir forward, powered by a sudden puff of wind and a chorus of grunts hoisting the sail, you head below deck for water duty. Big ceramic urns store drinking water, kept cool under woven cloth. You refill skins, careful not to waste a drop. Water is gold on the sea, and you've already learned what happens when it runs out. Later, a bell sounds short and sharp. A signal. Sails on the horizon. Everyone floods to one side, peering. There's tension, but also electricity. No one's sure yet if it's prey or predator. Reza lifts a long brass scope, peers once, twice, then small convoy, Bengali flags. No escort. A cheer goes up, but it's subdued. Everyone knows the routine. You all fall into practiced roles. There's no sprinting, no panic, just fluid motion. You're told to run powder to the gun deck. You grab a sack light, but awkward, and descend into the shadowy lower deck, where cannons crouch like beasts in their wooden cages. You pass the old Chinese gunner, already laying out his charms. Red paper talismans, a carved jade rat, and a half-burned stick of incense. You're not supposed to touch them. You wouldn't dare. Back on deck, the sea's picked up. The wind slaps your face. Another bell rings. Ready the signal, Reza says. The signal. You watch as one of the older boys hoists a flag made of woven seaweed and red thread. No Jolly Roger, no skull. Just a simple red spiral, like a cyclone. To merchant sailors in these parts, that spiral means bad news. It means run, if you can. You grip a rope with one hand, steadying yourself. You're not sure what's going to happen next. You've never seen a ship taken before. Not up close, but you're about to. And for a moment, with the salty wind in your hair, the cries of gulls overhead, and the sharp thump of your heart against your ribs, you feel something close to thrill. Or maybe it's fear, disguised. Out here, it's hard to tell the difference. The sails snap full, and the wind begins to hum like a living thing. Your ship, the Kalinga's shadow, cuts through the water faster than you thought possible. The deck vibrates beneath your bare feet, and the mast sings with tension as ropes groan and pulleys strain. You can feel it. This is more than just motion. It's the ship awakening. You're still crouched near the powder bags when the quartermaster, an older woman with one good eye and skin dark as roasted tamarind, grabs your shoulder. No trembling, she says. We're hunters, not ghosts. The other crew members are in position leaning into ropes, adjusting the rudder, bracing the cannons. Nobody's shouting. Everything is quiet. Too quiet. The sea itself seems to be holding its breath. And then, with the elegance of a falling blade, the pirate ship veers to port, rounding the side of the merchant convoy just outside their vision range. It's not an ambush yet, but the setup is unmistakable. Still, this isn't your fight. Not yet. You're still just a deckhand. So you're sent back below to tend the ropes, oil the lanterns, and stay out of the way, which is fine. You're not sure your knees are ready for battle. Down in the hull, it's hot and close and smells of tar, coconut oil, and mildew. You busy your hands by rubbing down the oars, counting bulkheads, and when no one's watching, listening at the floorboards for any word of what's happening above. Voices rise and fall. A cheer, then nothing. Eventually, the shouting above turns to laughter. Footsteps patter across the deck, and something heavy thuds near the hatch. A voice calls out, "Rafik, bring water buckets, we've got cargo." By the time you make it above, the raid is over. That fast. Turns out, the merchant convoy had no armed guards. Just 2 lumbering dhows filled with sacks of saffron, baskets of betel nut, and cloth dyed so brightly, it looks like someone spilled the sun. You look around for blood, bodies, even cracked planks. But the only mess is spilled turmeric, and a few angry chickens squawking on the deck. The sailors from the convoy were spared. Most are tied up and sullen, but alive. One of them is weeping over a fallen basket of mangoes. You pass water to the older pirates who led the boarding. One of them grins, teeth stained red from chewing betel leaf. "Easy pickings," he says. "Lucky first run for you." But you're watching something else. A young pirate crouched by one of the bound sailors, quietly undoing his ropes and pressing a small bag into his hand. Coins? A charm? You're not sure. The sailor bows, ever so slightly, before he's shoved back below deck. Later that day, the crew sorts through the loot. The boat smells sweet and spicy now like cardamom, sun-warmed silk, and pickled lime. A huge parrot someone rescued from the convoy refuses to stop screaming the same 3 words. Hurry! Hurry! Curse you! You discover your second duty of the day. Patchwork. You're handed a needle and a hunk of sailcloth to repair a torn flag. No one tells you why the red spiral needs fixing you just so. Around you, the ship hums with satisfaction. A good haul. No bloodshed, no one lost. You sit near the mast, the sunlight broken into gold shards through the sail, and you listen. You listen to pirates telling stories while they oil their blades. Stories of how once they tricked a Dutch trader by flying a Mughal flag upside down. Of the time they stole silver from an English brig and hid it inside baskets of fish. Of a cursed coin still aboard somewhere that makes the hammocks creak when no one's sleeping in them. You nod along, unsure what's true, but it doesn't matter. On this ship, stories are currency, and the most valuable ones are the ones you almost believe. Later, as dusk settles in and the crew sings a song about a monkey who ran off with the captain's sandal, you're assigned night duty. Lantern patrol. Keep the flames low. Watch the sea for shadows. You pass Reza, seated alone near the stern, eyes locked on the horizon. He's not laughing. He's carving something into a small square of wood, a face maybe, or a name. You don't ask. He rarely explains himself. Instead, you walk quietly to the bow and look out. The sea is calm. The moon hangs like a coin dipped in milk. Somewhere out there, more ships sail, some merchant, some military, some other pirates like you. But for now, it's just the creak of the mast, the slap of water, and the low murmur of voices below. You're still just a deckhand, still just learning. But you've tasted the rhythm of pirate life now, the early wake-up, the strange chores, the fast, bloodless raid, and the feeling that tomorrow could bring a typhoon, a mutiny, or the best day of your life. And oddly, that doesn't scare you anymore. Even before the sun rises, the ship is alive with quiet movement. You're used to it now, the way the hammocks creak like tired bones, the whisper of feet crossing the planks, the murmured curses in 6 languages. The ship speaks many tongues, and so does its crew. There's Sabir, the wiry helmsman with curling Udu tattoos up both arms. May, the Chinese cook who sings to her knives before sharpening them. Gopal, who claims to be a prince fallen from grace, though no one's seen his crown. Arawan, the Malay gunner who laughs at storms and keeps beetles in a gourd. Even the goat tethered to the mast seems to understand orders in 3 languages. You start to realize that life aboard the Kalinga's Shadow isn't just about looting and sailing. It's about sharing space in a floating world built on unspoken rules. It's not chaos. It's compromise. 1 hammock, many backs. 1 deck, many gods. In the mornings, some of the crew bow to the rising sun, pressing fingers to foreheads and whispering prayers in Sanskrit or Arabic. Others light incense before small carvings tucked into corners of the ship, tiny shrines to sea spirits or ancestor ghosts. May has a red ribbon tied around the handle of her cleaver. For luck, she says, but you don't ask more. Not when she's wielding that blade. You notice the rhythms, the way everyone gives way to the old Tamil sailor when he limps across the deck, or how they never eat until the quiet Bengali boy has placed a coin under the water urn to keep it sweet. It's superstition, sure, but on this ship, it's law. Your bunkmate, Ramu, teaches you how to wrap your sleeping cloth so the rats don't crawl in. They chew the softest bits first, he says with a grin, pointing to his toes. He's missing one. You don't ask. The food isn't glamorous dried fish, pickled mango, rice, and more rice, but the cook sneaks surprises into the pot when trade is good. Dried shrimp, sweet plantains. Once, a chicken leg each. That was the day of the Chinese festival, when May said her family would be watching from the clouds. No one dared speak badly of her soup that day. During downtime, the crew carves. They carve on the wood railings, on coconut shells, on each other's tools. You carve your name into a spoon and feel like you belong. And slowly, the crew starts to teach you. Sabir shows you how to read the wind, not just feel it, but see it in the tension of the sails and the chop of the water. The sea speaks before it strikes, he says. You just have to shut up and listen. May teaches you knife balance, using mangoes as targets. You slip, you lose a finger. You flinch, I laugh. You flinch. She laughs. Arwan lets you polish his guns. He names each one after a different kind of fish. That's swordfish. She always hits. That one's shrimp. Loud, but can't aim worth a clam. And Reza? The captain remains mostly distant, but sometimes he watches your practice sessions and nods just slightly. Once, he tosses you a folded cloth inside, a wooden pendant painted with indigo dye. A swirl shape, like the ship's flag. You wear it tucked into your sash. You don't say a word. Then there's the music. At night, when the ship rocks gently under the stars and the ocean sounds like breath, someone always brings out an instrument. A wooden flute, a 2-string rebab, a rickety drum made from goat hide and seaweed glue. They sing in overlapping dialects songs of lost loves, swallowed ships, and floating temples. And you? You listen, sitting with your knees hugged to your chest, eyes half closed, letting the voices swirl around you like salt air. One night, a storm crackles on the horizon. Everyone gathers on deck, but no one scrambles. The storm isn't coming yet. It's just close enough to put lightning on the clouds and silver the waves. Someone asks Gopal, he of the mysterious royal past, to tell one of his famous tales. He stands with theatrical flair, plucking a lemon from the food net and holding it like a scepter. There was once a tiger who ruled the bay, he begins. He had a ship for a body and fire for teeth. Every navy feared him. Even the stars refused to shine on his sails. You've heard versions of it before, but you still lean in. He weaves in names Chola kings, cursed pearls, crocodile priests. And when he says, and the tiger's last breath became the wind we sail on, no one laughs, not even the skeptics, because stories are half-truths on this sea. And sometimes the wind does feel like a growl. The crew applauds. Arwan throws him the last lime as a prize. Then the lightning cracks louder, and everyone heads below in silence. There's a reverence to it, like leaving a temple. In your hammock, rocking gently with the ship, you think about the tiger, the wind, the stories that tie this crew together tighter than any rope. You came aboard as a stowaway, a stray. Now you're something else. Not just a boy on a pirate ship, but a brother in a floating family odd, loud, prickly, and loyal to the bone. And tomorrow, when the sun rises over the Bay of Bengal again, you'll rise too, ready to learn, ready to pull your weight, ready to chase the next story. Because out here, on this ship, under this sky, you're not just surviving, you're becoming. The coast of Chittagong emerges like a smudge of charcoal on the horizon, heat rising from the land and waves that blur the distant palm fronds and stilted huts. The wind carries new smells, burning sandalwood, fish guts, fried rice cakes, and something vaguely metallic, like hot coin. Shore leave. You haven't stepped on solid land in weeks. Your knees wobble as the Kalinga's shadow glides into a hidden inlet north of the city, behind a mangrove thicket thick with mosquitoes and the occasional crocodile tail flicking the surface. No official docks. Just a series of rotting posts driven into the muck, used only by those who don't want to be seen. You anchor quietly, without flags, and wait for sunset. The crew is buzzing with excitement. Shore leave isn't just about rest. It's a chance to trade, repair, and maybe get into just enough trouble to remember why you prefer the sea. When night falls, you slip down the gangplank with the others. The tide smells like fermenting prawns. The mud sucks at your sandals. The jungle echoes with frogs and strange laughter. Chittagong awaits. Not the clean part. Not the part with Mughal officials and East India Company merchants sipping spice tea under silk parasols. No, you head to the Old Teeth, a row of crooked wooden buildings built over tidewater, where pirates, smugglers, deserters, and mystics rub elbows like family. The entire place smells like cardamom, sweat, and secrets. You follow Sabir into a low-roofed tavern where the walls are stained from years of spilt toddy and knife fights. A man with 3 fingers plays a sitar with surprising grace. A monkey in a red sash dances on the table. Nobody looks twice. There's a pirate code here, unspoken but solid. No weapons drawn unless you want to bleed. No cheating at dice unless you're ready to run. And no asking real names. Everyone goes by monikers. The Needle, Fire Eyes, Uncle Goat. You're given your own nickname, Cricket, after the insect that once crawled out of your boot mid-meal. You blush, but secretly, you kind of love it. Trade is brisk. You watch May barter a crate of stolen saffron for 2 steel cleavers and a bundle of ginger. Arawan sells dried squid to a one-eyed Malay woman in exchange for information. You don't ask what kind. That's the rule here, Hero. Speak little. You spot a vendor selling charms dried snake tongues, tiger whiskers in glass bottles, and something called whisper coins that supposedly let you hear sea ghosts. You don't buy any. But you do eye the polished bone, whistle hanging from a hemp string. Blow it when lost, the vendor rasps. Finds your way, or someone else finds you. You spend 1 of your copper coins on it. Further into the market, there's a tent glowing with blue lanterns. Inside, a woman with silver-powdered eyebrows draws pirate maps by hand. Not just of coasts, but of sea currents, pirate burial spots, and where the dolphins talk too loud. You're not sure if she's mad or a genius. Maybe both. Near the far end of the alley, Reza meets a merchant, swathed in silk and shadows. No words are spoken, just a quiet exchange of pouches. You catch the glint of gold and a flash of something sharp under the merchant's robes. The captain doesn't flinch. Later, the pouch goes into the hidden compartment under his bunk. Nobody asks. But not everything is pleasant. Gopal returns limping, face flushed, a small knife wound on his side. Dice turned ugly, he mutters. Some people don't like losing. May sews him up with a darning needle and a shot of rice liquor. He doesn't scream until she pokes him after she's done. You wander off a bit, eyes wide at the sights. Fire breathers, snake charmers, a goat painted entirely gold. Children running barefoot through alleys, singing pirate songs about drowning kings and dancing whales. This city doesn't feel like real land. It feels like the sea grew legs and threw a party. Then you see something strange. At the edge of a shrine, there's a black flag, not your red spiral, but something older. A sunburst crossed with an arrow. You've seen it before, in Sabir's tattoo, half faded on his shoulder. He sees you staring and pulls his shirt closed. Old crew, he says quietly. Don't ask. Just ... Don't. Back at the ship, the moon is high when you stagger aboard. Your pouch lighter, but your mind spinning. You're not sure how half the crew made it back. One is wearing a parrot on his head. Another has henna tattoos on his face that spell out something unrepeatable in Tamil. But they're all grinning. Even Reza, as he walks the deck and checks the rigging like it's a living creature. Back to sea at dawn, he says. This land smells like regret. As you slump into your hammock, your whistle tied around your neck, you hear the last fading strains of someone singing. The land may promise comfort sweet, but it's the tide that knows your feet. You dream of shadowed alleys, gold goats, and maps drawn in invisible ink. You wake before dawn, throat dry, heart full, and you understand something new. The land may tempt, but the sea it calls. Morning is slow to burn through the heavy clouds as the Kalinga's shadow glides silently away from Chittagong, slipping back into the arms of the sea like a whisper. The crew is sluggish after shore leave bleary-eyed, bruised and quieter than usual. Even the goat seems hungover, chewing thoughtfully on a discarded sandal. The sails rise reluctantly, like curtains pulled on a too early morning. You're helping coil ropes near the prow when a new sound creaks overhead canvas flapping in the wrong direction. A flag being raised, not the usual one. Today, it's black. You freeze. The other hands pause too, eyes darting skyward. But it's not the black flag, not the skull and crossbones from the Western tailies. Out here in the Bay of Bengal, pirates never bothered with grinning skulls. That was for European theater. This flag is older, stranger, black silk. No symbol, just two wide red stripes running diagonally like claws. Arawan squints at it and mutters, "Old code. No mercy." And just like that, the air shifts. The jokes vanish. The crew falls into a rhythm of silent preparation. No shouted orders, no stomping boots. Just the click of loaded weapons, and the rustle of sailors strapping blades to thighs and oiling. Locks on muskets that haven't fired in months. You don't ask questions. You just follow May's hand signal clean the cannons, run powder, double-check the oil in the lanterns. Reza hasn't said much all morning. He just paces the stern, watching the horizon through his old brass scope. Now and then he murmurs something to the quartermaster, who nods and disappears below. You finally get the courage to ask Sabir about the black flag. He doesn't look at you when he replies. It's not a warning. It's a statement. It means we strike fast, hard, and without terms. You swallow. Why? Sabir finally turns. Because the target deserves it. You don't ask again. Around midday, you learn more. The target is a Portuguese privateer vessel, floating fortress built to raid Mughal spy ships and then vanish into Dutch-controlled ports, hiding behind diplomacy and blood money. They call her Nossa Senhora de Mare Alta, Our Lady of the High Tide. But around here, she's got another name, the Widow Boat. Because everywhere she sails, someone's husband doesn't come home. She's been hitting ships for months, including one carrying Reza's brother, they say, including a fishing skiff that never returned to the Tamil coast, including the Needle's sister crew. Now she's caught resting in a cove off the Andaman chain, likely drunk on victory. The Kalinga's shadow is hunting her. And the black flag? It's not for intimidation. It's for memory. You pass the hours checking weapons, packing salted fish for a 2-day stock, and helping May tie her hair into a coiled knot. No stray strands when you're gutting lyres, she says. At night, as the sea hushes and the stars open their eyes, the crew gathers around a fireless circle. No flame, just voices. Reza finally speaks. "We do not strike for coin alone," he says, voice low. "This one's different. You see their sails. You don't wait for surrender. You board, you burn, you make the tide clean again." Silence. Then the quartermaster lifts her blade and taps it against the mast 3 times. 1, 2, 3. And everyone else follows. Swords, spears, knives, even you, holding a sharpened hook meant for coiling nets. 1, 2, 3. You don't know if it's tradition, or magic, or just the sound of unity. But it stirs something. The next morning, the island cove is in sight. Green cliffs, thick mist, and just beyond the rocks, the distant flash of white sails too still to be moving. She's anchored. A sitting giant. Reza raises his hand. The crew moves into their positions like water flowing downhill. No hesitation. You're not going on the boarding team. Not yet, but you help lower the longboats. Help pack flint, oil, and cords. Help load the cannons just in case. The boarding party rows into the mist, blades hidden, eyes burning. Reza at the lead, his shark-tooth necklace tucked beneath his shirt. His face is unreadable. You watch until the longboats vanish between rocks, your heart thumping like a drum. And then silence, for minutes, then half an hour, then more. You imagine all sorts of things, ambushes, betrayals, storm winds, suddenly falling from nowhere. And then a boom? Cannon fire? No, too soft. More like an explosion inside the ship. Then another. And smoke begins to rise from the jungle edge of the cove. And then cheering. By sunset, Reza and the others return, soaked, bruised, but victorious. May carries a bag of coins that clinks like a skeleton's rattle. Arawan has a new scar across his shoulder and a bloody trident that doesn't look ornamental anymore. No survivors from the widow boat. No mercy, Reza says. As promised. Later, when the moon is fat and golden and the ship sails free again, the black flag is lowered and folded carefully. Not discarded, just put away. You ask Sabir what happens to flags like that. We keep them, he says. They don't forget. You sit alone on the deck that night, tracing the red stripes in your memory, thinking about what justice looks like at sea. Not always clean, rarely fair, but sometimes unforgettable. Rain lashes the deck in sideways sheets as the Kalinga shadow battles against the rising fury of a Bay of Bengal storm. You're soaked to the bone, rope burns streaking your palms, and the sky above has turned a purple so dark it looks bruised. Lightning splits the horizon like jagged bone. And for the first time since you boarded this ship, you're genuinely afraid it might come apart. The wind screams, not whistles, screams around the masts as Reza yells orders that vanish into the downpour. Sails are half furled to keep them from tearing clean off, but the canvas still bellows like drums of war. The ship lists heavily to starboard, groaning under the pressure of each crashing wave. Sabir throws a bucket at your feet. Bail or swim. You start scooping water, numb to the cold. Around you, others do the same, forming a frantic rhythm. Scoop, toss, scoop, toss. Lightning crackles again, and for a split second, you swear you see something in the sea, a shadow longer than any fish, moving just under the surface. But when you blink, it's gone. The crew doesn't speak unless they have to. Superstition runs thick during a storm. You don't name the wind. You don't speak of what swims beneath. And you definitely don't whistle. It's said to call the storm closer. Even the goat's gone silent. The storm finally passes near dawn, as if bored with trying to break you. The clouds drain away, leaving the sea eerily calm. The crew looks like survivors of something sacred. Wet, shaking, but alive. May lights incense at the prow, mumbling in Cantonese, her eyes locked on the horizon. Arawan hangs a strand of sharp teeth from the rigging. Storm spirits feed on memory, he says. You have to pay them off. That day, the work is quieter. Ropes are recoiled. The mainsail is stitched where it tore. You're the one holding the lantern as May sews, each stitch like a prayer. Sabir teaches you how to rub lime into your palms to keep them from cracking. Salt's a gift, he says, but it chews your skin like a dog on a bone. But it's not just storms that haunt the bay. No, the sea has more tricks. A few days later, under a pale sun, you see your first shark. It trails the ship like a shadow on a leash, gray, slow-moving, with eyes like polished stones. 2 more follow it, and 4, and a dozen. The crew takes it in stride. They know we've got meat aboard, says the quartermaster, nodding toward a net of salted fish hanging just above the waves. And maybe ghosts, too. You think it's a joke until Reza orders the fish thrown overboard, without a word. Even when food is low, some offerings are worth making. That night, Gopal tells you stories of a ghost ship off the Burmese coast that sails without crew. Looks like ours, he says, eyes glinting in the firelight. But everyone aboard has fish eyes, and the captain's bones are carved with prayers. You ask if he's serious. He just hands you a mango and says, "Eat. Ghosts hate fruit." Not all superstitions are playful, though. Some are desperate. One morning, a crewmate wakes screaming, shouting in a language you don't know. He says he dreamed of drowning in a river filled with red snakes. That same evening, he refuses to touch the deck with his right foot first. Says it'll summon something. 2 days later, he slips from the rigging and breaks his shoulder. Coincidence? No one says so. But a few people sleep with knives under their pillows after that. And then there's the sunscreen. You overhear May and Sabir mixing something strange in a clay bowl: coconut oil, turmeric, and crocodile dung. For the sun, Sabir says, and for the demons in it. You try it once. It smells like rotting ginger. But hey, your nose may suffer, but you don't burn. The sea isn't just water out here. It's spirit, it's story, it watches, it tests. One dawn, you wake to find Reza at the prow, carving a fishbone into a circle of wood. You ask him what it's for. He glances at you and says, "To remember the ones who didn't," then tosses it into the sea. Later that day, a squall blows through nothing like the earlier storm, but enough to rock the boat and scatter your thoughts. You find yourself humming under your breath the tune Mai taught you, a lullaby, a song for calming boats and calming hearts. You hear others pick it up, a quiet chorus against the wind, and you realize this isn't a pirate crew like the stories told in books. It's something older, wilder. These aren't just rogues chasing gold. They're dancers in the eye of storms. Believers in luck and salt and gods with no names. Survivors, and you're learning their rhythm. One storm, one superstition, one stitch at a time. The heat that morning clings to your skin like syrup. The sky is cloudless, a pale white blaze, and the sails droop like wilted leaves. Bikalinga's shadow moves sluggishly, carving slow ripples through the bay. It's quiet, the kind of quiet that doesn't last long. Reza's voice, usually calm as tide, barks from the quarterdeck. Merchant convoy. Mughal flags. Portward. You rush to the edge, heart quickening. There faint on the horizon 3 vessels sail in staggered formation. Bright white sails, red pennants fluttering in the heat. Mughal trade ships. Big ones. Fat with saffron, cotton, indigo dye, silver, maybe even opium, floating palaces full of treasure. But not alone. There's a fourth shape in the middle, moving differently. Not cargo. An escort. A war dhow. Fast, lean, bristling with cannon barrels and archers. You hear Arawan mutter something in Malay you don't understand, but the tone is enough. This won't be a simple smash and grab. Reza squints through his scope. Wait, watch their pattern. You and the others settle into patient silence. Time stretches. The sun arcs overhead. The ships move like a constellation, predictable, elegant, and fatal if misread. Reza circles the crew near the bow. No shouting, just a quiet plan. We fake a distress. Sail damaged. Small crew. We let them come to us. Arawan snorts. Risky. Reza smiles, eyes sharp. Only if they smell the trap. The stage is set. You lower a sail to look torn. Knock a few barrels overboard. Paint fake scorch marks on the hull. Then anchor near a rocky islet. Smoke wafting from a false cooking fire made with tar and wet cloth. Then you wait. You're crouched by the mainmast, watching the war dhow approach slow, cautious. She doesn't look like prey. She looks like a hound sniffing a corpse. Her sails are black and gold, trimmed in emerald. Arrows lined her rail like the teeth of a tiger. And yet she sends a longboat. 5 armed men and an officer in a green turban row toward you, eyes wary. You can feel every heartbeat on the deck. Your hands are on a coil of rope The signal for the trap. Closer, closer. They board. One of them kicks a barrel, pokes at the fake fire, frowns. "Where's your captain?" the officer demands. "Below," Reza replies smoothly, stepping from the shadows. And in that moment, before the officer can reply, the deck erupts. Ropes yank from above. Blades flash from hidden hands. Nets are dropped from the rigging. You spring into action, scrambling to secure a trapline. May is already disarming one guard, her cleaver singing. Arawan swings in from a mast with a rope clenched between his teeth, laughing like a madman. The Mughal officer manages to draw a curved blade, but he's too late. Sabir slams the pommel of his dagger into the back of the man's head. He drops, unconscious. In less than 60 seconds, it's done. You tie the captured men and toss their weapons into the sea. One tries to spit at your feet. You spit back, not quite making the mark. Then the real move begins. The crew dons stolen uniforms' quick disguises. One of the captured men's flags is hoisted. The war dhow sees their own longboat returning. "Row steady," Reza says, adjusting the officer's green turban on his head. "We want to look like sheep." From the longboat, you watch your own ship vanish into the shadow of the Mughal escort. The war dhow prepares a welcome. Too bad it's about to receive fire instead. As soon as you step aboard, Arawan and May strike first. Crossbows from behind cargo. Oil flasks light the deck in seconds. Arrows scatter wildly, but your crew moves fast, with silent unity born of practice and instinct. You don't fight. You run messages, untie ropes, dodge chaos, but you see it all. A man tries to throw May overboard, ends up with a harpoon through the thigh. Reza fights like a whisper. Always one step ahead, each movement controlled. Sabir climbs the mast and cuts the flag mid-fight, lets it fall into the sea like a severed tongue. In less than 10 minutes, the Mughal war dhow is in pirate hands. The other merchant ships see the blaze and scatter, but the cargo's already yours. Cotton bales, indigo dye sealed in earthen jars, boxes stamped with the peacock crest of the emperor himself, and inside one box, jewels, not many, but enough to make every eye aboard widen. Reza doesn't smile. We take what we need, burn what we don't. That night, the war dhow sinks, sits black and emerald sails, last to vanish into the flame-lit sea. And you? You sit by the railing, listening to the creak of gold coins in their sacks, the mutter of tired men sipping sea-spiced toddy, the soft hum of a crew not celebrating, but remembering, because today wasn't luck. It was planning, precision, trust. And somewhere inside, as the embers float into the night sky and disappear like fireflies, you begin to understand. Real pirates don't just fight. They hunt. The sea changes color as you sail eastward, shifting from jade to deep cobalt, a kind of blue that looks like it might never end. The Kalinga's shadow follows a lesser-known current that Reza calls the back stairway, a narrow, winding path hidden between highlands and reefs. Sabir jokes as he charts the path with a knife into a plank. Or too drunk. Most maps don't show it. Most ships don't know it exists. Made by gods too clever for straight lines, you pass strange lands floating mangrove forests, limestone cliffs that rise straight from the sea like the spines of giant lizards. You see huts on stilts, their people watching you from a distance, faces unreadable beneath wide-brimmed hats. One child flashes a grin and disappears into the trees. The wind is gentle. Spirits are high. But there's tension in the air. Not fear. Exactly anticipation. Hit 2 out of 3, you eat first. Miss all, you scrub the bilge. Reza's taken to long hours below deck, with maps and letters inked in languages you can't read. He emerges only to stretch and eat, then vanishes again. When asked what comes next, he just says, an old debt. You don't press. Nobody does. Instead, the crew trains. Every rope you climb feels easier. Every storm less frightening. The sea no longer feels like a stranger. It's becoming familiar. Not tame, but known. Arawan sets up a series of clay pots on the railing and hands you a knife. You hit one. It shatters with a satisfying pop. Scrub half, he shrugs. You can feel yourself growing stronger, leaner, faster, more aware. He opens it slowly, carefully, as if it might bite. Tides that shift unpredictably. Wind that cuts like glass. But worst of all, fortified trade routes. You ask Sabir later, when Reza's out of earshot. Dutch, Portuguese, and rogue mercenaries patrol it like hornets around a hive. The strait is littered with shipwrecks. You see the first within a day, and then one morning, the drums sound. Fish dart through shattered planks. A rusted cannon peers upward, like it's still trying to fire. No sign of the crew. Just emptiness and silence. 3 beats, then silence. Everyone stops. Reza appears on deck, holding something none of you have seen before. A scroll. Sound echoes strangely. Someone's cough comes from above and below at once. Even the goat bleats nervously. Old, stained, sealed with wax, pressed by a sigil you can't make out. Reza orders the sails dropped to half. Every crew member tied to the rigging by rope. No one speaks above a whisper. This is where we choose, he says quietly. The Iron Strait. A low murmur ripples through the crew. The Iron Strait. You've heard it in whispers. Between songs. Usually with curses. It has not a single place. It has a network of channels and sharp rocks east of the Nicobar Islands. Why go there? Sabir shrugs. Gold flows through that passage like blood through a vein. But so do ghosts. It's not just superstition. A rotted mast sticks from the water like a bone. Figures stand on its deck, but they don't move. Not even a flinch. Just stand. Faces wrapped in cloth, eyes hidden. You sail past dozens more, some burned, others broken open, like split coconuts, each one a warning. And then the fog rolls in, thick, heavy, like a blanket pulled over your eyes. You can't see more than 5 paces ahead. Arawan adds a beetle he claims speaks in dreams. Lanterns are lit, but the light just swirls uselessly in the mist. And you wait. Sabir crosses himself in 3 languages. May says, "We'll burn clothes tonight." Then clang. A bell. Not yours. Not from your ship. And in the middle a narrow, winding path through the chaos. Close. Reza spins. Starboard. Brace. You fumble to your post, fingers shaking, trying to make sense of shadows in the fog. And then it appears. A ship. Not Dutch, not Portuguese. Something else. Dark wood. Tattered sail. Moving without a sound, without oars, without wind. It glides past, almost touching your hull. One holds a bell, ringing it once. Soft. Final. Then the ship disappears into the fog. You don't breathe until the sound fades. Reza doesn't explain. And that's what you do. At dusk, the fog thins just enough to light a fire in a metal pot. May tosses cloves, sandalwood, dried lime. The smoke curls up into the dark, carrying your fears with it. Nobody sleeps easily. But in the morning, you see it. The pass, the Iron Strait. Cliffs rising on both sides like jagged teeth. Waves churning white against the rocks. Reza lifts his scope, scans the ridges. There, he says. A convoy. Heavy with goods. Light on escort. Fortune favors the bold. He raises his hand. You grip the rope beside you. The ship creaks, leans, begins to turn. And just like that, you plunge into the strait. Not for revenge, not for blood, but for the oldest pirate promise of all. If the sea gives you a window, you take it. Wind rushes past your ears, like a living thing as the Kalinga's shadow surges into the iron strait. The cliffs rise like blade edges, so close you could almost reach out and scrape your knuckles on them. Waves slam against the rocks in violent applause. Every muscle in your body tightens. There's no turning back. Reza barks orders from the helm, hands steady on the wheel. Sails half up, ready oars. Don't let the wind take her. You scramble with the others, pulling ropes, securing knots, your heartbeat matching the rhythm of pounding water. One wrong gust, one misjudged current, and you'll become another wreck in the strait's watery graveyard. The enemy convoy glides just ahead a jewel box of 3 merchant ships, flagged under the Dutch East India Company, sleek, overconfident, probably not expecting pirates in a place most captains avoid, like cursed waters. Escorts? You ask Sabir between breaths. 2. He squints. 1 starboard, 1 trailing. Arawan spits into the sea. Both slow. Fat on sugar and gunpowder. We'll carve them like jackfruit. Reza's plan is simple in design, complex in execution. Use the tightness of the strait to your advantage. The cliffs prevent wide maneuvering. It becomes a race of timing, angles, and nerve. You're assigned to the aft cannon. It's your first time handling the powder directly. May loads the shot while you ready the fuse. Touch it too early, she warns, and we all go deaf before we go dead. Comforting. As the shadow approaches, the enemy ships grow clearer, clean sails, neat lines, soldiers at rest. No alarm yet. Not until Reza gives the signal. He raises one arm, holding a red cloth. Wait, wait, he drops it. Chaos begins. Cannons roar from the prow of the shadow, their blasts ricocheting off the stone walls of the strait like thunder in a canyon. The first Dutch escort jerks sideways as wood splinters from its hull. Their sails whip around, confused, scrambling to react. You light the fuse. The cannon bucks, and your ears ring, but you see the impact a ball slams into the rear rudder of the second escort. It spins wildly, a wounded animal. Reload. May shouts, handing you powder wrapped in paper. We're not here to admire. As the battle unfolds, Reza spins the ship like it's dancing. The narrow channel forces the Dutch ships to choke each other, block each other's lines of fire. You glide like a blade between them, striking from angles they can't reach. One of the merchant ships tries to pull away, banking left to avoid the onslaught, but miscalculates. Its hull scrapes the cliff, wood shrieking like a dying bird. It lists, groaning. Gopal and Arawan leap to the longboats with a boarding crew. You're not with them, but you watch as they ascend the deck like ants swarming sugar. Swords flash, pistols fire. The merchant ship's crew drops their weapons in less than 5 minutes. Reza doesn't even glance back. He's focused on the second ship. This one fights harder. Muskets pop from its rail. One of your crew takes a shot to the thigh. Sabir drags him back and shouts for May. She runs yelling, "Keep pressure. Unless you want to bleed out before we count the coin." Your cannon fires again, tearing through the enemy's midsection. Then crack. Something hits your ship. A cannonball, straight through the foremast. The top half shears off, crashing into the sea with a terrible splash. Rigging down, someone yells. The ship jerks, losing speed. You stumble, slam into the railing, catch yourself just before tumbling overboard. Reza clenches his jaw. No more games. He spins the wheel sharply, turning the shadow toward the last ship like a predator baring its teeth. With the front rigging down, speed is compromised, but your momentum is enough. Brace for impact, Sabir yells, and then you ram them. The wood-on-wood crash sends shock through your legs, your spine, your skull. Splinters fly, ropes snap. But it works. The Dutch ship groans, takes on water. Their soldiers stumble. That's the moment. Reza draws his curved blade and swings aboard with half the crew. You're ordered to stay and defend the shadow. You nod, though every muscle aches to follow. But you have a task to protect what's yours now. Minutes crawl. Screams echo. Smoke curls. And finally Reza returns, covered in dust and someone else's blood. They yielded, he says flatly. Tried to pay us off in coins. Thought we were thieves. Arawan laughs, wiping his blade. We're not thieves. We're reminders. By nightfall, the strait is quiet again. 3 ships captured. 2 left to drift, burning. And McCalling's shadow? Still afloat. Barely. Repairs begin immediately. You work with bruised hands and a buzzing head, hammering patches onto the deck, climbing into the half-fallen rigging with Sabir. You don't talk about the blood, or the sound the ram ship made when it cracked. You don't talk about the man you saw fall overboard, clutching his chest, vanishing without a splash. You just keep moving. That night, Reza calls everyone together. No boasting. No drunken songs. Just a fire lit in a metal bucket. The crew circles it, quiet, respectful. He holds up a small carved figure wood, shaped like a fish, marked with symbols you've seen on the ship's keel. This, he says, was on my brother's ship. Lost in this strait, I carved it when we found the wreck. He tosses it into the fire. Flames lick the figure. It blackens, curls, and then breaks. We sail on, he says, and that's all. Later, as the embers fade and the sea calms once more, you sit by yourself near the quarterdeck, watching the stars reappear. You're tired, hungry, covered in dust, but something inside you feels bigger. You didn't just witness the Iron Strait, you conquered it, and the sea knows your name now. The sun has barely climbed when the lookout's cry rings out. White sails, crisp and official, cresting the horizon like an advancing wall. Not Mughal, not Portuguese, not even rogue Dutch traders, but the red and white pennants of the Dutch East India Company. They move in formation, 6 ships deep, cutting through the gentle swell with merciless precision. Their arrival feels inevitable, like fate catching up. Reza stands at the helm, expression unreadable. The crew stiffens, hands resting on blades. For a moment, the only sound is the wind whispering through torn sails. Then he speaks, voice calm but low. They've come for us. You remember hearing rumors of a Dutch hunt squadron scouring the bay, bent on stamping out piracy. After the Iron Strait raid, you knew they'd send something. You just didn't know this. The first Dutch frigate, Valkenhorst, breaks off and heads straight toward the Kalinga's shadow. Her hull gleams like gunmetal. Her cannons gleam darker still. You've seen fancier warships, but you've never felt so small. Prepare to be boarded, Reza says. We'll offer them something they can't refuse. He signals the quartermaster. Unfurl the peace bunting. You crane your neck to see. A white cloth, patched and stained, flutters from the mizzenmast. Underneath it, a hastily painted emblem. 2 crossed cutlasses under a crescent moon. Neither side is fooled, but it's tradition, not negotiation. The Dutch frigate slows, dropping anchor a few ship lengths away. Their sailors lower a longboat, and Marines in leather caps begin to row toward you, muskets ready. The tension on deck tightens like a drawn bow. When the longboat scrapes against your hull, Reza steps forward, arms raised, palms open, no weapon. The boarding party climbs aboard silently, faces grim as vultures. Their commander, a tall man with a hooked nose and a scar across his right cheek, studies Reza with cold eyes. Captain, he calls, voice carrying over the deck. You are under arrest for piracy. Reza inclines his head. But I have a proposition. The Dutch commander frowns, glancing at his Marines. Speak. Reza gestures to the cargo hold. We have goods, spices, silks, silver. Yours, if you let my crew and me walk away with honor. The commander steps closer, inspecting Reza's shark-toothed necklace. You'd surrender your prize? Without fight? Reza shrugs. Some battles are wiser to avoid. A murmur ripples through your crew. You grip your knife, heart pounding, unsure whether you'll celebrate or fight at the next signal. Finally, the commander nods. Very well. Unload the goods. The crew heaves open hatches. In the hold, everything from indigo-dyed cloth to chests stamped with imperial seals. The Dutch Marines inspect, tally, and load the spoils onto their longboats. You watch as Mehmet, the quartermaster, counts silver coins into crates. May follows behind, wiping her hands on her apron, her expression thoughtful. Then it happens. From the corner of your eye, you see Dutch Marines training their muskets on your crew. The commander's scar twitches as he mutters under his breath. Reza notices too. His eyes flash not anger, but calculation. Gentlemen, he says, voice smooth as oil. Might I offer you a final token of goodwill? He steps aside, revealing behind him a hidden chest, smaller, bound in iron. The Dutch commander's eyes narrow as two Marines pry it open. Inside, a single ornate silver mirror, its frame carved with twisted sea serpents. The commander's stare flicks between Reza and the chest. What is this? Reza smiles gently. An heirloom from a grateful merchant, my brother among them. Consider it compensation. The commander holds the mirror a moment, then lowers his musket. Load it too. As the last crate disappears into the longboat, the Dutch commander turns to Reza. You are free for now. But know this, we will meet again. Reza inclines his head. I look forward to it. The Dutch return to their frigate. Valkenhorst weighs anchor, sails fill, and soon only white sails remain against the horizon. The deck is silent, save for the creak of timbers. Your crew exhales as one. Relief mingles with something darker disbelief, maybe awe. Reza surveys the empty deck, then turns to you all. We lost much, he says quietly, but we keep our lives. And that, in these waters, is everything. Later, Sabir crouches beside you, tracing patterns in spilled sand. They played us, he mutters. But they respected the dance. You nod, still heart racing. You wonder how many times you'll dance this dance before the sea finally offers no music. That night, as the stars wheel overhead, Reza calls for a small gathering. No fire, no songs, just hushed voices. He holds the silver mirror up to the moonlight. We have our wounds, he says softly, and they have their prize. But one day, that mirror will reflect more than greed. It will reflect justice. He then places the mirror gently on the deck, face up. One by one, the crew kneels, touches it, and stands. A quiet act. You kneel last, pressing a damp palm to cold silver. The reflection wavers in moonlight, then steadies. And in that moment, you feel it a promise, etched into metal and soul. The pirates of the Bay of Bengal will sail another day. As dawn breaks, the sky over the Andaman Sea is bruised heavy gray clouds roiling like a restless beast. The crew moves with tense purpose, tiding gear, oiling blades, and stowing crates. Word has spread that a Dutch galleon Zeewolf's Bane has been spotted near the Cocoa Islands, hunting pirates for sport and treasure. She's heavily armed, bristling with cannon ports and ranked sailors, and her captain bears a personal grudge against Reza. Today, the hunter becomes the hunted. Reza gathers the senior crew around the carved table in the stern. No maps this time, only 2 teacups, one for his lieutenant and one for himself, both steaming with spicy masala tea. He pours a cup for Sabir, who nods. Without words, they agree. They will lure the galleon into the teeth of a typhoon brewing just to the east. They'll use its fury as their weapon. The crew fans out, adjusting sails to mimic a fleeing ship. The engine of panic sets in ropes hiss, pulleys screech, and the black flag of vengeance unfurls atop the mainmast. It's a direct challenge. The Z-Wolf's bane won't resist the bait. As the shadow changes course, you help slat tar on patch scars, reinforcing weak planks. Each stroke feels like sealing fate. By midday, the wind shifts. A distant howl reaches your ears, not bird, not beast, but the rising breath of a typhoon. Dark walls of cloud cower in the east, lightning flickering in their bellies. The crew falls silent at the sight, feeling the weight of nature's wrath. You knot a rope around your waist, checking your blade, your flint, anything to stay alive. Late afternoon, a lookout cries, "Sails, starboard." At the horizon, the Z-Wolf's bane appears, its white hull gleaming defiantly. She's closing fast, eager for battle. Reza stands at the bow, arms wide, offering them a clear shot. It's a provocation, and it works. The galleon's cannons thunder, smoke curling in great clouds as the shadow reels under the first volleys. You stagger but hold position, returning fire on deck 2 with a swivel gun. The cannon's kick jars your shoulder, but the shot smashes into the galleon's rail. Sails flap, rigging snaps, and the Z-Wolf's bane lurches off course. Reza tugs on a signal rope, and the shadow veers sharply south, straight toward the churning gray mass of the storm. The chase is on. Waves begin to tower, swelling in seconds from knee-high ripples to monstrous walls of water that crash over the deck. The true fury of the typhoon arrives. Wind shrieks in your ears, sheets of rain cut your face, and lightning etches the sky in blinding arcs. The shadow groans under the strain. Sails threaten to tear, masts creak, and everyone clings to whatever they can. Sabir shouts orders. Secure the hatch. Lower the yard. Hold fast. Crew members scramble amid the chaos, voices lost to the roar. You help cut loose a broken spar swinging like a pendulum, whipping the deck. When another wave crashes, you're thrown against a gun carriage and taste salt, blood, and fear. The Z-Wolf's bane follows, heavy and less nimble, getting tossed like a raft in white water. A ferocious blast from its stern chaser hits the shadow's wheelhouse, snapping the helm's arm. The ship spins, a deadly moment. But Reza, with uncanny calm, leaps free, steadies the wheel, and corrects course. Lightning reveals the galleon just behind you, its hull cracking under pressure, its crew struggling to keep her afloat. Then a final wave, towering above both ships, breaks between them. For an instant, both are swallowed. When the water recedes, only one silhouette remains, the battered shadow, listing but upright, sails shredded, crew clinging to rigging. The Z-Wolf's bane is gone capsized, its masts sinking like black arrows. Silence falls. The storm, spent, drifts away on wind puffs. Droplets glisten on broken planks. The crew is drenched, trembling, but alive. Reza stands at the bow, soaked to the bone, and raises his blade skyward. A roar erupts cheers, coughs, triumphant laughter. You join in, voice raw, arms aching. Later, as you help patch the last splintered board, Reza passes by and places a hand on your shoulder. His grip is firm. "Justice," he says quietly, "for every brother they've taken." You nod, feeling the weight of the storm settle in your bones. Around you, the crew collects what salvage they can, repairing, tending wounds, tending spirits. The sea, once again, has tested you, and once again, you have endured. The morning sun strikes your face with the warmth of a kill as the Kalenga's shadow drifts into the tangled waterways of the Sundarbans. Mangrove roots twist like serpents through brackish water. The air is thick with humidity, the scent of rotting wood, and something sweeter saffron, salt, stolen silk. You've navigated open ocean, brutal storms, and empire navies, but nothing feels as alive as these hidden rivers. You're paired with May and Gopal, for this run your mission is to meet a shadow broker who moves contraband through Bengal's secret routes. No flags, no maps, only whispered directions and coded signals. You push a small skiff from the Shadow's side, stepping onto the bobbing platform as the others untie the rope. The mangroves loom like green walls, their canopies blocking out the sky. "Remember," May says softly, tying her cleaver at her waist. "No sudden moves. No questions." She glances at you, then disappears into the tunnel of roots. You follow, heart pounding, paddle in hand. The water murmurs against your hull, carrying whispers of unseen wildlife. A heron lifts off in a spray of droplets. A monitor lizard slides along a submerged log. You imagine the crocodiles watching from below, eyes just beneath the surface, ready to greet intruders with jaws like iron traps. After 10 minutes of silent gliding, you reach a wooden palisade that seems to grow from the mud itself. A single guard, a lanky man with a patched vest and a long scar on his neck, stands behind a carved post, half hidden by vines. He studies your faces but says nothing. Instead, he lifts a finger to his lips, nods, and beckons you through a narrow slit in the fence. Inside, the world changes. You're in a makeshift bazaar strung between two rivers. Bamboo stalls perch on stilts. Tarps overhead catch puddles of rain. Lanterns glow like fireflies. Merchants in turbans and sashes hawk jars of pickled shrimp, coils of cinnamon bark, and at center stage sacks of saffron so golden they look like sunbeams trapped in linen. You inhale sharply. True saffron, smuggled from Persian caravans, is worth more than gold by weight. The broker, known only as the alchemist, stands behind a low table draped with silk. His eyes are hidden by spectacles round glass lenses that flash candlelight. He wears a simple kurta, but you know the way he moves marks him as someone who has handled the finest silks traded through Surat and Dhaka. May steps forward. "We seek passage for cargo," she says in Cantonese, voice low. "Saffron, salt, stolen silk." A flicker of a smile, though you can't see it clearly. The alchemist claps once, and a boy no older than 10 scurries forward with a ledger bound in crocodile skin. He flips to a page covered in tiny writing and points to a symbol of fish leaping through a ring. "Here," he says, voice smooth like oil. "Route 3. It crosses the Ishamati River, skirts the brick kilns near Kulna, emerges at the old Dutch dock." He taps. 4 days. No questions. Gopal checks the symbol against a tattoo on his forearm, an insignia you saw earlier on a Chinese junk in Chittagong. He nods once. "Agreed." The alchemist waves an attendant, who places a small wooden box on the table. Inside, 6 filaments of saffron, the thickness of needles, their aroma stinging your nostrils. Behind them, a folded scrap of silk emerald green, embroidered with silver thread. Silk dyed in the forges near Patna, stolen from a governor's caravan last full moon. The broker closes the box and slides it toward you. May accepts it with careful fingers. You tuck the box into your sash, heart hammering. Salted fish from the ship waits behind you, bagged and ready to trade. You glance at it in these waters. Fish is as valuable as coins. Before you leave, the alchemist speaks quietly. Beware the brick factories. Guards change shifts at midday. Some patrols still wear VOC uniforms. They're hunters now, after Dutch reprisals. His words hang heavy. The iron strait still lurks in your thoughts. You and your partners slip back through the gate, emerging on the skiff. The sun is higher now, the air shimmering. You paddle upriver, carrying your precious cargo through channels, so narrow the mangroves scrape your shoulders. Each bend feels like an ambush, every fallen log a threat. Around midday, you glimpse the high brick chimneys of Kulna. Men in turbans load carts of brick into boats. Armed guards walk along the embankment, muskets slung across shoulders. When they spot you, horses bundled in nets, one guard raises his rifle, but then lowers it as Gopal lifts a finger in salute, and May reveals a small Dutch coin. pressed into palm. No trouble, Gopal says. Just passage. The guard nods, steps aside. You breathe again. The rest of the route is smooth. Downriver, past flooded rice paddies, through a narrow creek that branches off into open water. On the fourth evening, you catch the signal, a single lantern swinging from a broken mast, visible through the twilight. You guide the skiff alongside, climb a rope, and hand over the box. A brass-capped hand grips yours briefly, the alchemist's signature. The sails of the waiting vessel lift, and soon you're back aboard the Kalinga's shadow, silk and saffron stowed below deck. That night, as you share a rare meal of spiced fish and fresh rice, Reza crosses his arms and surveys the spoils. Good work, he says. This cargo will fetch more than enough to repair the shadow for months. He pauses, gaze shifting to the mangrove-fringed horizon. And more importantly, it reminds them we move where they cannot follow. You nod, tracing the saffron box in your mind. The stolen silk. The hidden paths. On deck, lanterns cast dancing shadows. The murmur of the crew drifts from below as they unfold the ointments, liquor, and small luxuries you've brought. You step to the rail, watching the moonlight shimmer on the waters you know like veins. The mangroves stand silent sentinel, their roots coiled around secrets older than any empire. And you understand this truth as the night air cools your sweat. Piracy isn't just bold raids and thunderous cannons. It's knowledge. A map of hidden routes. A whisper in a crowded port. A tapestry of loyalties and debts sewn through rivers and forests. It's the art of moving unseen. And you've become an artist. The night air carries a chill that feels out of place in these latitudes, like a warning whispered by the wind itself. You're on watch, leaning against the rail, when the lookout's hushed call breaks the rhythm of the waves. Sail off the larboard bow. Moonlight glints on angular sails, an unexpected silhouette that slices through the sea's silver sheen. This ship is unlike any you've seen. Stout hull reinforced with iron bands. Its stern crowned by an ornately carved figurehead resembling a clutch of bones in the shape of an eagle. Lanterns burn along its rails, but they cast two bright, clinical circles of light, like surgical lamps in the dark. Reza emerges from below deck, his shark-toothed necklace clinking against his ribs. He studies the approaching vessel through his spyglass. That, he says softly, is the Bone Admiral's Pride. You've heard whispers of this ship and the man who commands her. They call him Admiral Rahim al-Baden, the Bone Admiral, a pirate of such ferocity and cunning that even Gopal's wartime stories pale beside his reputation. Legend says he once sailed into a British squadron, single-handedly boarding 3 frigates in one night, wearing a collar made of his enemies' femurs. Others claim his necklace is carved from whalebone, dipped in the blood of traitors. Whatever the truth, his name turns the guts of merchant captains to water. Why is he heading our way? You ask, heart pricking with unease. Reza lowers his spyglass, frowning beneath his turban's fold. Rumor is he seeks alliance. A murmur ripples through the crew, travel-stained and wary. An alliance with the Bone Admiral could mean unmatched power, but also a ceding of independence. Reza's ship has always been small enough to slip through patrols, but large enough to strike fear. Joining forces would be a gamble. At the plank, Reza orders, prepare to receive guests. You help lower the boarding ladder, a narrow ramp of knotted rope and aged teak. Your hands tremble, part fear, part excitement. Below deck, lanterns are stowed, weapons readied, and the shark-toothed shrine at the aft mast, dressed with extra incense and offering, perhaps to keep Rahim al-Baden from smelling hostility before he sets foot on your planks. Minutes stretch. Then thump, thump, the ladder collides with your deck. Footsteps, measured, deliberate. First, Rahim al-Baden's lieutenant appears. A gaunt man draped in a matted cloak, bone-shaped clasps at his shoulders, eyes hidden by cloth wrapped tight. He removes the hood, revealing a face as pale as bleached wood, cheeks sunken, lips drawn into a permanent frown. You're struck by how still he is, like a statue carved from death itself. He bows once, low and precise. Reza returns the gesture. The lieutenant steps aside, and Rahim al-Baden himself descends onto your deck. He is tall, towering, really with shoulders broad as a merchant chest. His hair is silver, swept back in a braid, threaded with thin vertebrae. His eyes, dark and cavernous, scan the shadow's deck, taking in every detail as if memorizing a map. He wears a long coat of cracked midnight leather, beneath which hangs that infamous necklace. A crescent arc of bone segments polished smooth, each carved with runes you don't recognize. The deck feels suddenly smaller, the air heavier. Your crew stands at respectful distance, weapons half hidden but ready. Sabir's jaw is set. May's grip on her cleaver is relaxed but alert. Even the goat raises its head, bleeding once in recognition. Rahim al-Baden's voice is a low rumble. "Captain Reza," he greets, bowing again. "Your reputation precedes you." Reza nods. "And yours, Admiral, is ... unsettling." A thin smile flickers across Rahim's lips. "Unsettling often keeps empires at bay. I come with..." He pauses, tapping the bone necklace an offer. With a flick of his wrist, he reveals a map case of dark leather, embossed with an armillary sphere entwined by a skeletal serpent. He hands it to Reza, whose fingers brush the bone necklace in a mirror of the Admiral's gesture as he accepts it. Unfurling the map, May leans close, eyes widening. The parchment bears intricate coastlines, hidden shoals marked in red, secret coves penciled in green, and at the center, a small isle unlabeled but circled in black ink. A tiny skull symbol marks its shore. "Devil's Tooth Isle," Rahim says, voice dropping. "A hidden refuge for pirates' ancient bunkers, fresh water springs, a chapel carved into stone. Abandoned by the Dutch, unknown to the mules, but charted by me." Reza's fingers trace the skull. "Why share this with us?" "Because," Rahim leans forward, eyes shining with something like fire. "The bay grows crowded. Navies grow hungry. The shadow has proven itself more cunning than most. Would you have a stronghold, a place where ships can rest, repair, and strike almost unseen?" A silence falls, as deep and vast as the sea. You glance at your crewmates. Sabir's eyes gleam with greed. Arawan's face is a mask of skepticism, and May's lips purse in thought. Reza folds the map slowly, his gaze on Rahim. "Dependable allies," Rahim adds, "must trust one another." He reaches to his belt and produces a small iron box, sliding it open. Inside lie 3 bone fragments, tibia shards, rib pieces each carved with the same runic script as the necklace. Tokens of alliance. Accept these, and our bond is sealed. Reza takes one fragment, weighing it in his palm. Its surface is cool, rough-etched. He looks at his crew, evaluates. Then he nods once, sharply. "On behalf of the Kalinga's shadow, I accept," Reza declares. Rahim al-Baden's lips curve into a genuine smile brief, almost theatrical. He presses the 3 tokens into Reza's hand. Turning, he addresses the crew. "When the wind turns black, sound this bone horn." He lifts a carved instrument shaped like a whale's rib that hangs at his side. "I will know, and I will answer." With that, he steps back onto his ship. The ladder is drawn up, and the Bone Admiral's pride drifts away into the night, the glow of its lanterns fading like ghost lights. The deck is silent for a long moment. Then Reza exhales, rolling the bone fragment between his fingers. "Devil's Tooth Isle," he muses. "A sanctuary." You feel a shiver, some fear, some excitement, all the promise of untold possibilities. May exhales. "A sanctuary, or a tomb." Sabir laughs, dark and low. "If it's ours, it's home." Reza smiles at you, his eyes steady. "Prepare for departure at dawn. We claim our refuge. As your crew disperses to ready the ship, you remain by the rail, watching Rahim's distant silhouette slip into darkness. In your hand, you hold that bone fragment, its runes warm against your palm. You tuck it into your sash beside the indigo pendant from Reza, a reminder of storms survived, alliances made, and chapters yet unwritten. Tomorrow, you will sail toward Devil's Tooth Isle, toward a hidden world where legends sleep and where you, too, might leave your mark in bone and ink. For now, though, you simply stand under the moon's pale watch, listening to the sea's soft apology for the night's intrusion and feeling, for the first time, that the horizon holds more than prey. It holds promise. And you are ready to seize it. The dawn air is unnaturally still, as the Kalinga's shadow slips into a narrow creek, fringed by mangroves that lean in like secretive sentinels. Reza's tooth and bone tokens rest heavy in your pocket, but you can't shake the feeling that something's off. No birds call, no monkeys chatter. Even the usual hum of insects feels muted, as if the jungle itself is holding its breath. Reza leads the way down the gangplank into this final port before you'll make for Devil's Tooth Isle. It's a makeshift dock of half-submerged beams and mud-caked planks, lit by a single lantern swinging on a frayed rope. Water laps lazily, reflecting the sky like liquid glass. Silence hangs low, broken only by the squish of your sandals in the muck. Stay sharp, Reza whispers, his gaze shifting between the tangled roots and shadowy alcoves. Something here doesn't welcome us. You and Sabir flank him, weapons sheathed for courtesy, but within easy reach. Arawan and May slip ahead, carrying crates of spare rigging and dried fish rations to trade for fresh timber. Even Gopal, usually jovial, his silent eyes narrowed, fingers tracing the map case strapped to his belt. A single figure steps from the shadows, a port broker known to Reza as Murugan, a wiry man with a whisper-thin mustache and eyes like polished coal. He nods but offers no greeting. Behind him, two silent guards lean against the mangrove trunk, long-barreled muskets resting on their knees. Goods for repair? Murugan's voice is hushed, raspy like fallen leaves. Or news? Reza steps forward, placing a carved shark-tooth pendant on a plank. Both, he replies. Our prow's damaged. We need timber. And word of the island ahead. Murugan's gaze flicks to the token Reza wears. He lifts one eyebrow. Own Admiral's token, he says. You carry powerful friends. Reza inclines his head. We do, but we pay our debts. Murugan studies the token, then the pendant. Timber's scarce, but we have something else. He lifts a hand. One guard steps forward, unshouldering a small burlap sack. He places it before you. You peer inside. Several jars of pale gray powder-crushed crocodile dung, mixed with crushed pearl, bound with coconut oil. The storm oil, Murugan says. Legend says it calms seas or summons them. Use wisely. He watches your face. As for news, the currents shift. The tides run stranger than a fox in the henhouse. A shiver runs through you. Explain, Sabir prompts. Murugan glances toward the trees, voice low. Pirate hunters. Not just Dutch. Local kings pay bounties now. They've learned our roots. They wait in shadows. He taps his temple. In these mangroves, companies vanish. Crews disappear, no wreckage. No bodies. The sea keeps its secrets. May exhales softly. Traders in our midst? Murugan shrugs. Could be, or beasts. Could be both. He picks up the shark-tooth pendant. Your captain's charm works both ways. You trust that it'll protect you? Reza retrieves the pendant. It's earned every stitch of faith. Murugan nods, then steps aside. Timber's in the next inlet, beyond 2 watchtowers. And I've sent word to allies on the island. They wait, but will they welcome you once they know what you carry? Reza's jaw tightens. We'll earn their welcome. Murugan presses a hand to his chest. Some welcomes are paid in blood. He turns and vanishes into the gloom, leaving the crew to exchange uneasy glances. For a moment, no one speaks. Then Arawan breaks the hush. Let's get to work. Timber before dusk, and then we either fix our shadow or fix a way home. You follow the others toward the inlet, each step sinking deeper into the sludge. The closer you get, the louder you hear it. A distant thump, thump, thump like a heartbeat. Drums? Engines? Impossible in this place. Reza holds up a hand. Stop. You all crouch behind twisted roots. Through a tangle of branches, you see two tall watchtowers carved from mangrove trunks platforms high above the swaying canopy. On each, a figure stands. Ragged clothing, faces hidden beneath cowl-like hats, long rifles in hand. Not firewood, May whispers. Sentinels. Sabir grips his dagger. Company hunters. Reza's eyes narrow. He kneels, unrolling the chart Murugan gave him. He points to a narrow channel snaking between roots. We sneak through here, he says. They won't see small boats. Dig into that inlet. Trade for supplies quietly. Then back before nightfall. You nod. No one argues. As twilight burns overhead, you slip into the skiffs. The drums or whatever the sound is grow louder, more rhythmic. You paddle slowly, every muscle taut. The air tastes iron sweet, like pre-storm ozone. At the third bend, you see it. A clearing lit by lanterns strung between stilted pagodas. Men in dark tunics move like ghosts, loading timber planks onto a long barge. The barge rocks gently against the water, as if nodding in greeting or warning. Reza raises a finger. You pause, then paddle closer. Arawan steps onto the barge first, offering a small pouch of coins. The watchers glance at it, then at Reza's bone token. A tense moment. Then they step aside, allowing the timber to be unloaded and stacked onto the skiffs. You load your own supplies, fine teak beams, fresh ropes, barrels of fresh water, moving swiftly. You keep one eye on the shadowy pagodas. The drums stop. Silence falls. Then, sharp crack. A musket shot rings out, splitting the air. Arawan drops the last beam, clutching his thigh. Chaos erupts. Hunters emerge from the pagodas, rifles raised. You dive behind a stack of planks as bullets chip wood around you. Reza stands, sword drawn. Back to the skiffs. You rise, sprinting through the chaos, grabbing a barrel of water for cover. May catches your arm, pulling you down as a volley thuds overhead. Splinters fly. In seconds, you're in the skiff, paddling hard, heart hammering. Behind you, the hunters press their advantage, firing into your wake. You taste salt and fear. But further behind, you hear another sound. A low horn, carved bone echoing through the trees. Rahim al-Baden's horn. From the darkness, a night blue sail appears. The bone admiral's pride. Her lanterns blazing, cutting through the gloom like torches. Her hull glows with anticipation. The hunters hesitate, rifles lifting uncertainly. Then, with a roar like wild thunder, the Pride fires a broadside from her small cannons, sending hunters scattering into the mud. Reza's face splits into a grin. That's our cue. Together, Shadow and Pride charge into the inlet. Cannon fire chases the hunters into the mangroves. You paddle like the wind, adrenaline numbing the pain in your arms, the burn in your lungs. Within minutes, the inlet is empty. Timber-loaded skiffs bump against the Shadow's hull, and crewmates scramble aboard. Arawan clambers over with May supporting him, bleeding but alive. Reza stands at the rail, bone fragments in hand. He raises them high. All eyes hold faith. The echo of the horn carries off into the mangroves, answered by a distant cheer. As the Shadow pulls away, you look back. The hunters lick their wounds beside smoldering embers. The pagodas stand silent. You turn ahead and see the open sea silver under the moon, with Devil's Tooth Isle, a dark smudge on the horizon. Your heart pounds. Betrayal nearly cost you everything, but loyalty pulled you through. You've survived one last trial before the storm's end. And now, at long last, you sail toward home. The monsoon sky hangs low, a vast slate sheet ready to crack. As the Kalinga's shadow approaches Devil's Tooth Isle, the wind is warm and sticky, carrying the scent of rain and smoke. In the distance, dark plumes spiral upward, ghostly sentinels marking a ruined shore. Your heart thumps in your ears as the island's silhouette sharpens. Jagged rocks crowned by collapsed watchtowers, smoldering ruins of Dutch gun batteries, and ragged palm trunks leaning like broken spears. The sea around the reef is choppy, whipped by currents that shift without warning. Every swell threatens to pitch you onto razor-edged coral. Reza stands at the prow, cloak billowing in the humid breeze. He studies the flames licking the sky. They found us first, he says quietly. Or perhaps someone left them a trail. You swallow, recalling Mirudin's warning of traitors and night hunters. The bone tokens in your sash feel hot against your thigh. The promise of refuge has become an ambush. The skiffs slide into a hidden cove, tethered behind a rocky outcrop thick with vines. You and Sabir wade ashore, boots sinking into wet sand slick with ash. Each footstep releases the hollow crunch of burnt coconut husks and shattered terracotta. A sour tang of molten iron drifts from overturned muskets. Gopal stands beside the charred remains of a galleon's hull strewn across the beach, its name half erased. Sanctus Furo, once an allied vessel, now a pyre. Arawan examines deep scorch marks in the stone rampart above. They used something stronger than fire powder mixed with oil, he says, voice hushed. Black smoke that burns lungs. May scans the tree line for signs of hostility. Tracks, fresh footprints, not ours. She points inland, where a narrow path winds between mangroves. They retreated that way. Reza nods, turning back to the wreck. He kneels beside the corrugated planks, fingertips tracing a carved emblem, a crescent moon encircling crossed swords. His jaw tightens. Our sanctuary isn't safe, he murmurs. Time to make it so. You follow the narrow path, moving single file through thick underbrush. The canopy overhead is dense. Only mottled light filters through. You pass relics of old pirate life. A mossed-over shrine built into a sandstone rock. Dozens of empty rum bottles balanced like offerings, and half-buried chests with iron hinges eaten by rust. Birds call in startled flocks as you near a hidden inlet, a mirror of still water, flanked by two limestone rocks. Between them, a rope bridge dangles, its boards burned at the edges. Reza gestures for silence. They expected us to flee, he says. Instead, we'll strike where they rest. A dozen pirates slip across the bridge. Riza, Sabir, May, Gopal, and you, each armored lightly for speed. Beneath the bridge is a flooded cave mouth, from which echoes drift. Muffled voices, clinking chains, the rasp of metal. You drop into the shallow water and wade through the cave, lantern light dancing on damp walls. Faint footsteps guide you to a chamber where the night hunters have made their camp. Muskets stacked, crates of confiscated goods, and a line of prisoners and ropes captives from your crew and island allies alike. Reza raises a finger. Wait for my mark. He slips behind a stalagmite, then signals. Sabir hurls a stone that shatters against a metal crate-clack. The signal echoes like drumfire. Instantly, jade-green lanterns flare. May leaps forward, cleaver raised. Gopal tumbles into the center, sweeping legs. You draw your blade and charge from the rear. The night hunters scramble, startled by the sudden ambush. A fight erupts in the confined space. Muskets fire and misfire in the damp air, while blades flash. You parry a hunting rifle swung like a club, tossing the hunter into the water. Sabir overcomes 2 men at once, dagger dancing. May tears rope from your crewmate's wrists. Gopal grabs the nearest hunter's arquebus, turning it on his own comrades. Reza corners the captain of the night hunters, a lanky man wearing a Dutch-marked uniform stained black. Their eyes meet across the cave's gloom. Without a word, Reza thrusts his blade. The captain drops, gasping. Reza catches his fall, then signals you to free the captives. Within minutes, the cave is yours. You unbind your shipmates, handing flasks of water and offering soothing words. Outside, the surf pounds gently, as if unimpressed by human violence. Emerging back into the humid dusk, you see Reza torching the bridge. Flames lick the ropes, setting the bridge alight. It collapses into the water with a final snap. No one else comes this way, Reza says, voice soft. On the beach, the night hunters lie bound or fled some, disappearing into the tree line in retreat. You survey the island. Wreckage to the left, a hidden inlet behind, and the cave your new stronghold ahead. Reza calls the crew together. He holds up a battered Dutch banner, now torn and singed. This flag flew over our home, he says. They turned sanctuary into slaughterhouse. Tonight, we reclaim it. Torches are planted around the beach and cave entrance. The crew stands in a semicircle as Reza draws his sword, pressing its tip into the sand. For every brother taken, he intones, for every sanctuary broken, we give them ashes. He raises his blade to the sky. The crew echoes with a low, unified cry. Then, ordered by silent accord, you all set fire to the wrecks lining the shore, the hulks of ally vessels, abandoned muskets, stolen chests. Flames roar, consuming wood and canvas in hungry tongues. Smoke coils into the twilight like a living thing. You stand before the bonfire, heat washing over you. A stray ember lands on your sleeve brief, hot, gone. You close your eyes and feel the burn in your chest. Grief, rage, relief, and something deeper closure. As the pyre's crackle merges with the first patter of distant raindrops, you realize the monsoon has found you at last. The wind shifts, bringing a fresh spray of rain that hisses as it meets flames. The storm has returned not to destroy, but to cleanse. You and your crew watch as the last of the wood surrenders to water, embers fading into steam. The island stands silent, scarred but still yours. You turn to Reza, who sheaths his sword. He offers you a simple nod. No grand speech, just quiet understanding. A stray drop lands on your brow, then another, then a curtain of rain. The world narrows to the sound of water, the glow of dying fire, and the steady breathing of your comrades. You have faced betrayal and fire, storm and hunter's trap. You have made sanctuary and reclaimed it with ashes. Now, in the monsoon's embrace, you sail toward whatever comes next, knowing that pirates born in salt and storm will endure, so long as they hold courage in their hearts and sea in their blood. Soft sheets of rain fall in gentle rhythm, pattering on the deck as the world softens around you. The fire's roar has quieted into a warm glow of embers, and you feel the monsoon rain like a lullaby, each drop a whisper, each gust a sigh. Close your eyes for a moment. Breathe in the scent of wet teakwood and sun-warmed stone, now washed clean by fresh water. Imagine the steady rocking of the Kalinga's shadow as it rests in the lagoon, oiled ropes slack, silent except for the hush of rain and the distant cry of a heron returning to its nest. Feel the weight of the day, the clash of steel, the taste of salt on your tongue, the heat of the blaze sliding away. Your shoulders loosen, your heart slows, and the ache in your limbs melts into the steady pulse of the sea. You've faced storms and hunters, betrayal and fire. You've carved out sanctuary from ruin. Know that this story, like the monsoon itself, will pass into memory, fueling future voyages, whispered in late-night watches, woven into songs. For now, Allow the mist of rain to blur the edges of the world. Let the day's final light fade into a soft gray horizon, and let the steady rhythm of the rain carry you toward dream. Sleep awaits beneath a sky of water and wind. Rest easy, knowing the sea still holds wonders and dangers, but also the promise of new dawns. The waves cradle you, and the clouds cradle the sky. You are home in their endless, gentle motion.